All right.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name's Amanda. Welcome back to our to-go wine tasting. We are on Italian wines.
Hi, guys. I'm Chef Lee, 440 Maine. Mickey's on Maine.
And welcome back, everybody. I'm Aaron Dawkins. I'm a certified sommelier with the Court of Master Sommeliers here with Republic National Distributing of Kentucky. So welcome back to, I think this is our third now that we've done, and we are jumping to one of the classic wine regions of the world, one of my favorite places to talk about wine, but it's also one of the most kind of difficult to understand or grasp sometimes because the world of Italian wine is vast. It's old. There is a lot of hierarchy and pomp and circumstance, but once you start to understand a little bit of it, it's easily, if not the best, one of the greatest wine regions in the world. So first up, a little bit of order. Tonight, the four wines that we have chosen for you, Chef's going to show them for you. We're going to do in order. First, the Benvolio Prosecco, classic sparkling wine from northern Italy. Followed by that, we will jump to the Caposaldo Pinot Grigio from the Veneto region. Moving on from there, we'll get to our reds. We're going to jump way south to Sicily for the Cusimano Nero d'Avola. And then we'll finish up with a classic Tuscan red from central Italy and Tuscany. And this is from Banfi. This is Colapino, and this is a Toscana IGT Sangiovese. All right. So thank you, Chef. As we jump through this, the most important thing to remember about Italian wine or learn about Italian wine is that it is about a sense of place, not necessarily about a specific grape varietal. We're used to, in the United States, in the New World, we're used to defining wines by their grapes, Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, Cabernet Sauvignon. Whereas in the old world, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, they defined grapes by their place. And that's because of their history. Italy was a place of city-states. And after it was, first settled by the Greeks first and then the Etruscans over 4,000 years ago, Italian city-states were very important. This was not a unified country. They warred with each other. They had different styles of food, culture, language, and all of that translated all the way down to their wine. And certain regions became well known for the quality of their wine production, and which is why we now have Tuscany and Piedmont and Veneto and Sicily, all making completely different styles of wine with their own unique grapes that suit that area. Italy can be really difficult for a lot of people, and it's difficult to study because Italians claim that they have over 5,000 native grape varietals on that tiny peninsula, which is just insane. Once DNA mapping and technology has come more into the fray, it turns out that there's really only about 1,200 to 1,500 different wine grapes, but there are different of the similar varietals, and they grow differently in each place. And each village or region kind of has their own names for those wine grapes. But still, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 grapes is a ton of varietals to work with, and it's a lot to learn and know. So it's most important to know the style of the place rather than caring about what varietal or grape is actually in the grape. So I've beleaguered this too long. You have sparkling wine, hopefully in your glass, the Benvolio Prosecco. So first we'll ask you to raise your glass, do a little cheers, and enjoy, if you haven't already, your first little sip of Benvolio Prosecco. Prosecco has grown monumentally in popularity. It is a specifically Italian sparkling wine, but Prosecco is different than Champagne for one distinct reason. So when we talk about Champagne, not only are we talking about the Champagne region in France, but most importantly, we're talking about the Champagne method. And so the Champagne method is secondary fermentation inside the bottle. That's what makes Champagne so unique. That's why the bottles are so heavy. That's why the cork flies off at such speeds. And Prosecco is made a little bit differently, which is why you can drink really quality Prosecco at a much more affordable price than Champagne. Prosecco is produced in what's called the tank method or the Charmat method. And what it is, they actually take that secondary fermentation and they put them in pressurized stainless steel tanks, and the process of fermentation where the carbon dioxide is trapped inside the bottle happens much, much faster. In champagne in the bottle, it takes anywhere from, 15, 18, 24 months, so upwards of 2 years for that process to happen. In Prosecco, grapes can be harvested and wine can be made into Prosecco, usually in 2 to 3 months total, maybe even 8 months after a little bit of aging in the bottle. So because of that, the cost is significantly lower, but it's also not nearly as refined as champagne is. But what's nice about Prosecco is its versatility. I love drinking Prosecco with literally everything, and it is fantastic food wine because it, as I've said before, in all sparkling wines, they just kind of tend to go with everything. So tonight, we've got a lineup of cheeses here that Chef's going to go over momentarily, but really, anything that you have in this box is going to go well with Prosecco, and really, vice versa. We've talked about this before, kind of jumping back and forth and trying different things. But Chef, will you go through a little bit of what we've got tonight?
Yeah, up in the upper right-hand corner, you see a wedge of an Italian blend cheese. It is cow and sheep's milk, and there's black truffle mixed in there. Really nice, strong, earthy flavor to that, and it's a semi-soft cheese, very similar to a mozzarella in texture. Just across from that, you see a goat cheese that's been rolled in cranberries. Kind of nice, sweet, seasonal flavors going on there. Down in the bottom left, we've got little wedges of smoked Gruyere, a French variation of Swiss cheese, and then we've got a nice wedge of classic brie next to that.
Great, thank you. Any of these are going to be really easy pairings, but specifically for the Prosecco, I think that brie or that Gruyere, or honestly that cranberry rolled goat, all of those are going to be really delicious pairings with that Prosecco. Prosecco is made with a grape called Glera. If you ever get that trivia question, now I've told you the answer to that. But Prosecco is the region. It is in the Veneto in northeastern Italy. Very important region for making a lot of different styles of wine. We'll actually talk about it a little bit as we move to this next wine, which is the Caposaldo Pinot Grigio. So this is Della Venezia Pinot Grigio from Caposaldo, and I'm going to share the screen here for a second, and we'll get you a little bit of information here and get you to some maps. But as we concentrate on Italy, incredible country to grow wine in. So here at the top, if you can see my cursor, surrounding the entire top of Italy is the mountain range, the Alps. So very distinct climate here. Italy also sits very, very far north. If you were to look at its longitudinal line here in the Veneto and Trentino Alto Adige, this is actually pretty similar to Toronto or even Montreal, Canada. It's that far north, so it's very continental climate, but it has this warm body of water, the Adriatic Sea, that maintains a temperature for it a little bit better. So up here in Trentino Alto Adige, much cooler mountainous climate as we get here in Veneto and Giulia. It's a little bit more of a coastal climate and really well suited to growing a lot of different styles of grapes. I'm going to jump to, here we go. So you can see here in Trentino Alto Adige, a very small area used to make mostly high acid whites. There's a lot of Germanic influence in this area. So Pinot Grigio does very well here, which is where this wine is from that we're having. Because of its Germanic and Austrian influence, there was a lot of immigration here about 100 years ago and even before that. As war began to brew in most of the rest of Europe, there was a lot of German, Austrian immigration to this area. So in the northern part here, they actually still speak some German. As we get further down in Trentino down here, they actually speak Italian. So the reason why that is so good is Pinot Grigio's ancestral home is actually Alsace, France, right on the border with Germany. And so as we look at that, this is a very, very excellent area to grow this Pinot Grigio grape. So here as we do it, hope you're enjoying that. But Caposotto Pinot Grigio is delicious. It is a very versatile white wine grape. I like to think it sits right in the middle of the spectrum. It's got a little bit of more fruit forward leaning, but it actually, especially from this area, has a little bit higher acid. So it's very crisp, very clean, and really, really versatile white wine. We kind of paired this with either your Brie or your smoked Gruyere, but really it's going to go with everything. Pinot Grigio is a super versatile white wine grape. And even as we start to kind of plan out thoughts for Thanksgiving, Pinot Grigio is going to be on a lot of tables because it just goes with everything on the table. So yeah, Chef, before we jump into the reds, can you tell us a little bit about the meat selection and the rest of the board that we have tonight?
Yeah, I've got some of my favorite Italian meats in here today. We've got some Genoa salami, just a nice pork sausage, dry aged or dry cured. Got chunks of fat and little peppercorns in there. We got everybody's favorite on the bottom left. We get just a classic prosciutto, and then we've also got a dry capicola in there. That's a beef sausage. It's barn cured, and then we've got a little fig and honey spread in there to go with everything.
Awesome. It all looks great. As we move to the red wines, we are going to do a big jump about as far away as we can from northeastern Italy. We're going to jump down to Sicily. And if you've ever watched, if you've ever seen a Scorsese film, you'll spend some time talking about specifically the differences between Sicily and the rest of Italy. They do not like to say that they are the same. And as you look at this larger map of Italy, you can see how far apart it really is. Sicily is much closer to the continent of Africa than it even is to Rome. So the differences in style, the differences in people are very, very stark. But their most important production has always been, food and wine. It is built into their culture. And so there are two main grapes. Sicily really produces exceptionally well. The white of that is called Inzolia, and then the red, which you're going to have next, is called Nero d'Avola. So Nero d'Avola is a really hearty red wine grape, but it also puts out a lot of fruit. So for that reason, tonight we're going to pair it with the cranberry goat because I think it's just going to be a delicious pairing. Nero d'Avola is pizza wine. It's pasta wine. It is Tuesday night wine, whereas sometimes some of the higher end versions of Italian wine you want to save for like a weekend wine. Nero d'Avola goes with everything. It's kind of bright red fruit up front, but it's a little bit rustic and earthy, kind of on the mid palate. It's not heavy in tannins, so you don't necessarily need some big piece of steak to go with this, but it will also hold up to pretty much anything that you put with it. And so when we look at southern Italy, the island of Sicily here at the bottom of the boot, with its famous Mount Etna, still active volcanic mountain range. So we have a ton of different soil variation in this area and really makes delicious, but also really approachable white and red wine. And so the Cusimano is just a versatile red wine that's going to go with just about everything you've got. I think the pairing with that, we mentioned specifically the cranberry goat. I think those kind of bright red fruit flavors are going to show really, really well. But again, it's going to go with everything in the box that you've got there. Lastly, as we move on, we're going to go to Tuscany. We couldn't cover all of Italy in 4 wines tonight, so we left out Piedmont, which we'll come back around and we'll do a Piedmont night for sure. But Tuscany would be the other one that is by far the most famous and most important in Italy. What's also really important about Tuscany is its hierarchy of quality levels. And so when we talk about DOC or DOCG level wines, those are very specific wines with a sense of place, a sense of purpose. They have to be regulated in a certain way. But then there's also this this other style called Toscana IGT. And IGT is a little side category that was created when some famous wines called Super Tuscans were first founded. Think Sassicaia, Tignanello, some of the more famous ones like that, Ornellaia. And it's become this wonderful category that does a little bit different wine style, but still being from Tuscany. So I'll take you back to the maps here in a second. We'll talk about Tuscany. So Tuscany is by far the most famous wine region in Italy, situated between Florence and Siena. It has the famed region of Chianti inside of it. So Chianti and therefore Chianti Classico are the most well-known, and they're grown with a grape called Sangiovese. But Sangiovese grows all over the region, and not all of it gets to be called Chianti or Chianti Classico. If they are not inside that purple area, dark purple for Chianti Classico, or inside the lighter purple for Chianti, they are not allowed to call that by their name. But as wines, these wine regions have grown, specifically the cool other areas, Sangiovese and also some French varietals like Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot grow really, really well. So we've got the Colapinna Toscana IGT. So this is about 90% Sangiovese, but then it also has a little bit of Merlot and Cabernet in the blend. So we're getting more full-bodied wine. This is a wine that's going to go with your steak, with your lamb, with your ossobuco, but then is also going to do really well with the charcuterie board like you've got tonight. The last pairing for the night, I think this wine is going to just be exceptional with your truffled Italian cheese that you've got in that top left of the box. I think it's going to be delicious. So I hope you agree with me, and I'm jealous that I'm not currently enjoying some of that. But as we go through and we talk about Chiantis and Chianti Classicos, they range from, inexpensive, crowd pleasers all the way up to hundreds of dollars a bottle for single vineyard reservas. So it's a really cool region to get into. As always, we're grateful for this opportunity to share some cool stuff with you. These are things we look forward to and talking about the region of Italy. Trying to cover this in a 15 to 20 minute video is almost laughable. We could do days of Italian wine education and food and wine and cheese pairings, because if you've ever been to Italy, you know how important food and wine particularly are to every single area. So thanks for the time as always. Amanda Lee, you want to send us off?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. I just want to go ahead and say this weekend, happy Halloween. We do have some music here starting 7:30 on Friday and Saturday. We also just launched our new menu, so definitely come check that out. Thank you guys so much for joining us again for Italy Wines.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. We'll see you next time.